The following is an SAT writing question that is asking us for the best version of the underlined portion of a sentence. So let's go ahead and read the sentence and figure out if choice A is a valid option. So the forgotten treehouse, comma, lying at the northernmost end of the Wilson's property, comma, and is hidden by dense foliage. The problem here is the word and isn't functioning in order to give you the last object in a list, but is here as a connector between two independent clauses. Except this one is independent, where you have a subject and a verb. You have the forgotten treehouse as a subject, lying as a verb, and what it's lying at, the object of the sentence follows. But then you have and here rather than having a subject, you don't have a subject. You just start with is, which would be your verb, and then hidden by dense foliage, which is what it is, which is the object, but you don't have a subject. So without a subject and a verb, you can't have a full sentence. You can't have an independent clause. So the word and here requires that you have an independent clause or an SV at least, an SVO as well on both sides of the and. You can't have that. You don't have that here, so that's not okay. Answer choice B says, the treehouse is hidden by dense foliage. It lies at the northernmost end of the Wilson's property. So here, following this comma, you have a full sentence. You have the subject, it, the verb lies, and what it lies on, which is the object, and that's fine. But you start here with the forgotten treehouse, which is a subject again, is, which is a verb, hidden by dense foliage. So again, you have two full sentences, but this time rather than an and, you have a comma. And you cannot have two independent clauses on both sides of a comma. One of them, when you have a comma, needs to be a dependent clause, so something that looked a little bit more like is hidden by dense foliage, where you didn't have a subject. So the rules here are that when you're going to have two independent clauses next to each other, two SVOs or SVs next to each other, you're going to have and, you're going to have a period, or you're going to have a semicolon. But every time you have a comma, one of the sides is going to have to be a dependent clause or not a full SVO. So this one is wrong because of that reason. Answer choice C here says, treehouse to lie at the northernmost end of the Wilson's property. And. So this part of the sentence here would have to be a full sentence, except to lie isn't acting as a verb. Verbs in the infinitive aren't conjugated, and they don't count as a V in the SVO requirement. So you have an S, an O, and where you would have had a verb, you have an infinitive. So that's not okay. Answer choice D here, the forgotten treehouse lying at the northernmost end of the Wilson's property, hidden by dense foliage. This would be okay. So because you have two commas here, and a dependent clause, which is totally fine in between commas, this implies that the subject here would then apply to the verb here. So you have subject, verb object, except you don't have a verb. You have hidden, which is describing what the treehouse is. So this is actually an adjective. This isn't a verb. So you don't have an SVO. You have two dependent clauses and no independent clauses at all. And like you said here, one of them needs to be an independent clause. One of them. Whichever one. So because we don't have any here, this can't be the right answer choice. But that leaves us with this one, which looks a little bit strange. And the reason this works is because of parallelism. Let's take a look at that. So the forgotten treehouse is hidden by dense foliage, and. So this is a complete sentence. We have the word and, but this is fine. The forgotten treehouse was our subject, is our verb, what it is, the object, no problem. And we want another SVO here. We start with is though, and is a verb. We don't have a subject. Well, it turns out that because we have is here and is here, we can assume that the subject will apply to both instances of is. That will happen every time that you have the same verb show up for a different object that it is working on around the word and. It is okay to assume, in that case alone, that the subject will apply to both the verb of this half of the sentence and the verb of this half of the sentence. So this is one of our special parallelism cases, so this is why this is okay. I hope that that makes sense. Remember, you're going to have a subject, the same verb, let's call this verb X, and then some object it operates on, then you're going to have the word and then you're going to just have the same verb again, same verb X, and this is okay for a full sentence or an independent clause, because if it's the same verb, the subject will apply on that half of the sentence implied because of the parallelism construction. I hope that that explains the problem for you. Happy prepping!